Hi there everyone. Today we're taking a look at Google's new interesting notebook tool called NotebookLM. It's getting a lot of attention in various places. I even saw a video, it's this one here, of it apparently going viral for various reasons.
There's a new hit podcast taking X and the tech world by storm. It's called Google Deep Dive. It's taking on everything from the latest in science to classical literature. The only catch, the hosts aren't real. And the producer is you. This is all part of Google's new NotebookLM project. And Deirdre Bosa has more in today's Tech Check. Hi, Dee.
Morgan, I hope you're...
Okay, so obviously it's picking up a bit of attention in various places. And it is a really interesting tool. I think specifically there's a podcasting aspect to it, which is very, very interesting. We will take a look at that in a moment, but let's first just take a look at it in general and look at what it can do, and certainly from English language teaching perspective, how it might be used by teachers. First thing to note, obviously it says at the top there, this is an experiment. It's always a bit worrying when Google puts any word like experimental or anything which is time limited on it, because they do have a tendency to kill off tools. If you go to the famous website Killed by Google, you can see all the different tools that over the years they've killed off, sometimes after it appeared only very briefly, and then if they deemed it's not worth keeping, then they'll get rid of it very, very quickly. So at the moment I think it's available, it's free, so make the most of it while you can, but be prepared for the fact that at some point it may not be available, or it might be merged into some other tool, or some of the features might be used in other places. So it's called NotebookLM. It obviously suggests it's a note-taking tool, which it kind of is, although that's perhaps not the most accurate description of it in terms of what it can do. So let's just kind of go in, and you can see this is my account here, and essentially what you can do is you can create a notebook, and you might want to give it a theme in a moment, but basically you just connect different sources to it. So you can upload a whole variety of sources. You can upload PDFs, audio files, MP3, or you can provide links to different things like Google Drive documents, Google Docs, Google Slides, or you can get a link to a website or a YouTube video and then utilize that as a source. I think you can have up to 50 sources at a time. And then you can do various things with the sources that have been uploaded. Let me just take an example which I've already created. Let's go back to my notebooks here. So for example, this one here, I've got on Spanish food. Okay, and you can see down the left hand side here, I've got 5 different YouTube videos connected to Spanish food, and I can add additional sources there. Or if you untick them, you can then subtract sources, and then the AI tool won't analyze those specific sources when you ask it a question. Okay, so let's tick those again. You can see these here. Now, there are a variety of things you can do. You can ask sort of simple questions about those sources. So you can see at the bottom here it says view chat, or you've got an option at the bottom to start typing and add any kind of question that you might ask, but here it's specifically asking about those sources, and it says next to it 5 sources. So we can ask a question, what do the sources say about the best places to eat in Spain? I'm sure it says something about that. Okay, and you can see here it gives you some ideas there taken from the different sources, but tapas bars, and you can see it gets these little numbers next to it, and these numbers relate to where that particular information comes from, and you can kind of click on it and it will show you from the source or the transcript of the video where that comes from. Okay. So very simple thing like that you can do. Now the feature that I think is really, really useful is if you click over on the right here where it says Notebook Guide, this will bring up firstly some pre-configured sort of questions or activities you can ask the AI. So for example, you can ask it to create an FAQ from the videos. You can ask it to create a study guide from it, table of contents, a timeline, or a briefing document. So for example, if we click study guide, it takes a bit of time to generate. Okay, and now you can see here it's got some short answer quizzes there. So if you want to study something, you want to learn something, then you can put in the different sources, whether it's articles, websites, YouTube videos, and then it will give you kind of a test on that, and then it'll give you the key underneath to tell you what the correct answers should be. So I think from a student's perspective, particularly students maybe at high school, university, secondary school in the UK, this can be a great way to test your knowledge of a particular subject you're studying or a particular area of a subject. So just close that. Now the tool that was has been getting all the attention is the podcasting tool here on the right, where it says audio overview. And I've already sort of created a podcast from this, but essentially it will generate a podcast from the sources that are selected on the right and on the left, sorry, and they will, it'll create two characters or two people in the podcast who will talk to each other about it. So let's just load that up to show you what I mean. Okay, so let's just play this here. This is one about Spanish food.
All right, so let's dive into this pile of YouTube videos all about Spanish tapas. Just from watching these, I'm already like planning my next trip to Spain.
Sounds like a plan. But before you book those tickets, let's, unpack some of the history behind these tasty bites, huh? The origin of tapas is actually kind of debated. It's not exactly clear-cut.
Oh, really? I was going to say, I did see one video that mentioned, wait, were flies involved?
Yeah, you're remembering right. One theory.
So you can see that. So that's generated like a 7-minute podcast, which will mention all of those videos and talk about different aspects to it. I mean, it really is incredible. Obviously, accents are limited. It's American at the moment, very sort of white American, but you can imagine in the future there might be more options for that. But it is incredible what they managed to kind of pull together to make it sound like a semi-authentic podcast. And again, from a studying perspective, if you're studying a particular subject, maybe you don't like reading through all the articles necessarily, you can pull in a variety of articles or web pages and then just generate a podcast from it and then listen to that. And if you learn better in that mode, then I think that's a really interesting tool indeed. But I want to look at this really from a language teacher's perspective, particularly English language teaching, and what we might be able to use this tool for as a teacher. Now, one thing I really like about this is that it allows you to upload documents. It allows you to add videos. Now, if you've ever used the basic versions of things like Gemini and ChatGPT, you can't really use links or uploads to generate questions, quizzes, etc. Either you have to kind of cut and paste things in or cut and paste a transcript in, whereas here you can kind of get around that and use this free tool to generate quizzes and tests and lesson plans from sources like YouTube videos and PDFs. So what you can do here, let's just say we wanted to create a quiz based on a specific YouTube video. So I'm going to sort of untick these ones here. So we've just got that one video, Spanish food and culture. And what I can do from that is, I can ask it to sort of create listening questions for. Okay, so you can see there it's generated those questions. We've got some gist ones and some detailed ones. Okay, and obviously you can ask it to generate the answers for you, or you can ask it to ask different types of questions as well. Another potential way that you could use this is to generate lesson plans around several sources or texts. So again, you could have different sources here. You could have a reading, you could have a listening, and then you could ask them to create a series of lessons. So let's say I looked up sort of Spanish food, and I looked at say this website about Spanish dishes, and then I could add that to our list of sources. So put that website in. Okay. Now you will notice there, and this does sometimes happen, is that you'll sometimes get a limitation on the website. You can see there's like a red mark suggesting this can't be used. This is to do with some kind of regional restriction or paywall behind a particular website. So be aware of that when you're importing. If it gets this red marker on the left, that suggests you can't use it as a source. So let's try something else here. Let's try this. Okay, you can see that one does let me add it as a source. It's got a tick next to it. And again, we could potentially use these sources to generate a lesson plan. Okay, so here I'm going to say, act like an English language teacher, create a lesson plan for a A2 level group around this video and web page source. So here it says provide a clear pre-listening task, at least 2 listening tasks, 1 gist task and 1 detailed comprehension, and a follow-up speaking task that incorporates the websites. Okay. So again, you can get that to generate a lesson plan for you. Okay, and there we go. Has a nice little task around that. Okay, you've got brainstorming, gist understanding, first viewing, second viewing, detailed comprehension, and then you got the sort of group work activity afterwards, and then ask them to use that web page to help it. So I think this is a really nice website as from a teacher's perspective to be able to generate lesson plans, quizzes, particularly around sources such as video and articles, which are not things you can normally upload or put into things like ChatGPT and Gemini, at least not the paid versions. So I'll be interested for you as English teachers to give this a go, try it, curious how you use it. Can you think of any other ways that it could be used? But it's certainly a fascinating tool. And I think that podcast aspect is really, really interesting as well. Not sure how it could be initially used from an English language perspective, although it is a very interesting one to play with. Okay, hope you find that interesting and hope you give it a go.